using the Dash Avatar storyline, but starting from Avatar number 1, that's the Matsya Avatar, and going up to Avatar number 7, which is Parshuram Bhagwan. There's a lot that I learned through this conversation, and I'm hoping that you feel the same way once you get past this entire conversation. Mr. Vinay Varanasi, welcome to TRS.
Thank you.
I've been watching your content on Instagram. I think there's a lot of people who are explaining Sanatan Dharma in Hindi, in regional languages nowadays, while the world is also waking up to it once again.
Yeah.
So, while I want to begin this podcast with a hey bro, how are you? I also have to put forth the theme of today's episode, which is Vishnu.
Okay.
Specifically the universe of Vishnu, because beyond Krishna, Sri Ram, and the 10 avatars of Vishnu,
Yeah.
not too many people truly understand the essence of Vishnu.
Yeah.
So, where would you like to begin? Because there's a lot of international viewers listening into this one as well. I think the word Vishnu has reached some aspect of pop culture in America as well. They know that there is an Indian god called Vishnu.
Yeah.
It just says a lot about the popularity of the god.
Absolutely.
So, welcome to TRS, brother.
Thank you. I think that's a beautiful theme to take up. The idea and the fact that you said the world of Vishnu, because in some senses he encapsulates so much of what playfulness divinity is about. So, when you first say the word Vishnu, my head immediately goes into a very beautiful story that I'd heard long ago and I didn't make sense of it for a very long time. So, the story is set in Kailasa, where Ganapati is having his birthday. And, his mother, being Annapurna, mother of the entire universe, she decides to have a massive feast. And she invites everybody. She also invites Vishnu and all of his family from Vaikuntha. So this is a very beautiful story that we find in the Puranas. And he doesn't go because he has some larger game up his sleeve. So he sends one of his attendants. And the attendant that he sends, he has this rule in which this attendant will not eat anything until he has seen Vishnu, until he has had darshan of Vishnu. So he comes to Kailasa and attends this massive feast that Annapurna has prepared. And at the end of it, they all have to eat because it's a celebration. And she says, everybody eat and then only leave, as we do khatirari for any mehman. And everyone except this person is ready. So it is Vishnu's attendant who says, no, we have this rule, this niyamam in Vaikuntham, that we don't eat until we see the Lord. My Lord is not here. I can't eat. So Annapurna smiles and she says, okay, then you do one thing, you tell the birthday boy, that is, tell Ganapati, and then go. At least, just inform him that you're leaving. He's taking rest inside. So this attendant goes inside, and when he opens the doors and he expects to see a sleeping baby Ganapati, in his place he sees, on Adisesha, Vishnu is reclining. And when he sees this, he's completely perplexed. And this story is told in the context of how Vishnu is interchangeable with any other devata. Not just Vishnu, in fact, in some senses, that's the essence of Sanatana Dharma, that deities are manifestations of one reality that keep shifting shapes as per their wish and their will. But that brought out a very beautiful connection for me about how, so Vishnu is the same as Ganesha. Okay, is Vishnu the same as others then? That's a very interesting question which goes into a very fun rabbit hole if you ask me. So, yeah.
Okay.
तो एक हाई पेइंग सैलरी के लिए बहुत बड़े प्रमोशन के लिए आपको आना चाहिए एडवांस एक्सेल के साथ एआई और चैट जीपीटी का सही इस्तेमाल करना। लेकिन 10 में से 9 लोगों को पता ही नहीं है कि एडवांस एक्सेल के साथ एआई और चैट जीपीटी को कैसे यूज किया जाए। आपकी इस मुश्किल को आसान करने जा रहा हूं। मैं सिर्फ 3 घंटा आपसे मांगूंगा। इस 3 घंटे के अंदर मैं आपको एडवांस एक्सेल के फॉर्मूलाज के साथ एआई और चैट जीपीटी हैंड्स ऑन
Vishnu the same as others then? That's a very interesting question which goes into a very fun rabbit hole if you ask me. So, yeah.
Okay. Feeling like Alice in Wonderland jumping into a rabbit hole.
Oh yeah, I'm glad. And I'll take you happily to the rabbit hole.
The Wonderland of Vishnu.
Yes.
Okay. When I was a kid, I saw B.R. Chopra's Mahabharata, obviously.
Yeah.
And after the Mahabharata got done in about 1997 or 98, they released a show called the
Vishnu Puran. Yes, I still remember the actor, and yeah.
That's the first time I realized exactly what Vishnu meant.
Yeah.
So I went back to that show when I was about 25, 26 with a slightly more heightened understanding of Sanatan, and I realized that that show was very deep. Like the philosophy spoken
Beautiful.
in the first 3 episodes about how the universe came to be.
Yes.
Very deep, and maybe it's not for kids also in some aspects. You won't be able to understand it if you watch it as a kid. So I made it one of my life's goals to actually relay that kind of information in a digestible manner to people who've not seen the show and to people who are not familiar with the Vishnu Puran.
Beautiful.
Do you think that's a nice place to start this universe of Vishnu podcast?
I think anything with Vishnu is fun because, like I said, he's such a playful deity that on one hand there's so much of symbolism, and on the other hand there's also so much of story, so much of relatable content. Because when we look at Vishnu, that the entry point typically is through Rama or Krishna because we're most familiar with them. In fact, in some senses, it's not even wrong to say that the backbone of the Bhakti movement in some senses is also Rama and Krishna.
What is the Bhakti movement?
The Bhakti movement is this rise in collective consciousness that happens across the country at a time when Bhakti was loosely understood as ritualistic practice. It's at a time like this that many people are, and it's a movement that historically traveled across different states, but essentially what happened was that a lot of people realized that they were able to find divinity within, and that rituals were, set rituals prescribed were working for some groups of people, but there were tons of people who were able to hold on to certain life values and access that divinity within. So it became a way of amassing people's thoughts, people's positivity essentially, and channeling them towards a larger purpose, saying, hey, you can also find the same Vishnu. And in the state of Maharashtra, the Bhakti movement took one of the most phenomenal turns.
What period of history are we roughly speaking about?
So this is, of course, the Bhakti movement spans multiple centuries, but in Maharashtra particularly, you see around 1600s onwards, a little before as well, the rise in terms of the growth of the Vithala movement, which is a lot of people came together and realized Vithala, a form of Vishnu, who became so dear to the folks of Maharashtra that they abandoned everything else for him. So essentially the group of people that saw Vithala as their supreme lord, what they envisioned in this relationship with Vithala was, he's the only deity we need, he's the only thing we need to depend on, and he's the only form of divinity that we need to forge a strong relationship with. So how do we do that? We do that by committing to him. What do we commit? We commit time. So we walk for days at a stretch from wherever we are, and we reach his home in Pandharpur. When a seemingly simple act like this comes into place, what you also see around it is the idea that, okay, no other hard and fast rules are required for this. You can come from any faith, any belief, anything. All you need to do is walk and sing songs of love for him. And you sing, and that devotion that comes from you, it happens without a break. So break in Sanskrit is typically called as bhanga, something that disrupts your love. But this happens without a break, so it's called as abhanga. That also gives rise to a whole new forte of music, a whole new genre of music called as the abhanga sampradayam, where people just sing, and that practice continues in Maharashtra till date. Not just Maharashtra, it's spread now to other parts of the country, where people walk for days at a stretch to go see Vithala, which corresponds to the English month of around July, August. In the month of Ashadi, on that Ekadashi, seeing Vithala is considered to be life's ultimate purpose. And it really makes you think, what is so special in this deity that people don't walk for 1 or 2 days, they walk for months, weeks at a stretch with no basic facilities just to have one glimpse of their Vithala. So that is a universe of Vishnu, if you ask me.
सोनागाछी एशिया का सबसे बड़ा रेड लाइट एरिया है। वहाँ पे 5 साल की 8 साल की इतनी मासूम बच्चियां हैं जिनकी जिंदगी उस ब्रोथल के
The universe of Vishnu, if you ask me.
How is Vithala different from Vishnu?
So Vishnu typically for us means Dashavatars. We look at 10 incarnations of Vishnu. But interestingly, the Bhagavad Puranam, which enlists more than 24 avatarams of Vishnu, does not list Vithala as one of them. There are other forms of Vishnu also which are not listed in them. One is Balaji, for example. All of these deities have some amazing mysterious element to them that somewhere people were able to relate them to Vishnu. I'll since I brought up Balaji's name, I'll touch a little bit upon this. Again, undoubtedly India's most popular deity, because everybody associates Balaji and his temple in Tirupati with the riches. If you look at the temple, if you keep aside the riches and the Tirupati Laddu, which is possibly the most famous part of it, if you actually look at the idol of Balaji, it's not entirely suggestive that he's Vishnu, because the idol has on his arms, he has two snake armlets, which is synonymous with Shiva. The idol has matted hair. Shiva is the one who has the jata jotam or the matted hair typically. So there is an entire community that historically for years worshipped Balaji as Shiva before he was known as Vishnu. There is another community that said, no, this is the mother goddess. This is Devi. Because the stone that Balaji is made of is called an Aruna Shila. Aruna is a shade of red. And Aruna is also a name of Devi. So there is a whole belief system that says, no, this is Shakti over here. And there is a yantra also that has been established by Shankaracharya. There's one version that says this. There is another group that said, no, in the southern part of the country, in the southern part of India, when you look, Balaji is on top of a hill. Tirupati is on top of a mountain, right? Tirumala is on top of the mountain. Most of the time, in Tamil Nadu especially, the god that is on top of mountains is always Muruga. Muruga is Kartikeya or Skanda, Shiva's son. So they said, no, this has to be Skanda. So there have been communities that all looked at this form of divinity in different ways, and nobody could decide who it was. In fact, when we look at the image of Balaji, the standard image, you see the Shankha and the Chakra, which are Vishnu's attributes. Those aren't a part of the idol. Those were added much later. And they're, so when this debate had to be resolved, Sri Ramanujacharya placed a host of different weapons in front of the idol at night, and he closed the doors. He said, let's see what the Lord picks up. So it said that the Lord picked up the Shankha and the Chakra, and henceforth it was established that he was Vishnu. But there are people who even worship Balaji till now as Dattatreya. They worship him as the Guru. So this is why I say Vishnu is mysterious. We don't know what history he comes with. Today we're looking at a very calendar print version of Vishnu and assuming it was always like this, but he's a very mysterious god.
Okay. Again, coming back to that Dashavatar conversation, the 10 avatars of Vishnu is what I have also known Vishnu as.
Yeah.
Primarily because of that show.
Yeah, Vishnu Puran. Yeah.
I also believe that deities have the ability to express themselves in art in a way that suits the children, teenagers and youth of that time.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I was a child in the 1990s. Very impressionable. Now that memory of that show stayed with me for life, and that's my definition of Vishnu.
Absolutely.
That when I was a kid, and I probably still do in so many ways, equate Vishnu with Parabrahm, which is the all-encompassing God.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And then for that all-encompassing omnipresent God to explain itself to the limited human brain, it depicted itself as a god called Vishnu.
Absolutely.
Vishnu takes part in worldly affairs through his avatars.
Yes.
Okay, and they are parts of him.
Yeah.
It could be understood as encompassing everything that he stands for completely, but to the human eye, mind, ears, and senses, those avatars are only aspects of Vishnu. But they are the same as Vishnu also.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Fair? Is there any teachings on the origins of Vishnu other than this particular story in the Vishnu Puran? Or do you think that the Vishnu Puran is also kind of man-made to a certain degree and we don't even know where the deity came from?
You're saying anyone can become a Python developer in just 30 days? If they learn Python using AI, 100% yes. Traditional Python takes months to learn.
Puran is also kind of man-made to a certain degree and we don't even know where the deity came from.
So, again, like you said, I can relate to this because I also saw Vishnu Puran as a child, and I don't know how much I grasped because, like you said, the level was here. But what was amazing about it was there was a relatability. The relatability came from the avatars. It came from the fact that, okay, even if I'm not familiar with this concept of how from Vishnu the entire universe came into being, I'm familiar with Rama, I'm familiar with Krishna, so it becomes a very easy access point, which is exactly where the mystery begins. That we're all to some degree familiar with these two at least. But when you go into complete Vaishnava Siddhantam, that is, the philosophy and the essence of Vishnu, a lot of it rests on sadhana and experiences that you have within. Like you beautifully said, the idea that he expresses himself as he wills. That is the case for any deity, be it Vishnu, be it Shiva. But what is interesting about Vishnu is always equated with the idea of expansion. And expansion is the function, or it is the nature of the universe. The universe is constantly expanding. That is why Vishnu comes from the root word Vishwam, which means universe. So that life force which is constantly expanding, which is constantly spreading, Vyapakam, in Sanskritam Vyapakam means to spread. That spreading is called Vishnu because it is a function of consciousness. So that is the idea with which Vishnu is worshipped, that it is constantly moving consciousness. It is consciousness that is radiating from one central point, but from it everything begins. And that's represented in the form of Vishnu. Because you say from it everything begins. I'm saying it, but not disrespectfully. I'm just saying when you're looking at consciousness beyond gender, from this consciousness, everything begins, which is why when you look at the image of reclining Vishnu, you will see on his navel, there is a lotus. That's why he's called Padmanabha. From that lotus, Brahma sits, and Brahma creates from there. So look at what an interesting depiction that is to showcase this as the navel. Because navel in Sanskritam is Nabhi. Nabhi means center. So it says this is the center of the universe. So the image of Vishnu is pointing at you and saying, hey, this is where the universe began, from consciousness. So it starts there and expands from there.
Loving this conversation. Now, I'm sorry I'm going back to that show, okay, because that's
Not at all. You're bringing back my childhood also.
it's the anchor point of my thought when it comes to Vishnu. So I remember the first episode is where they just show Vishnu arising out of somewhere. I can't remember exactly what he comes out of, but they just show that he appears. Then through him, and I think this is what's also mentioned in the Vishnu Puran, he gives rise to Shiva and Brahma.
Yes.
Right?
Which is what I mentioned, the Nabhi Kamalam, the lotus that comes from his navel, Brahma comes from there. Yes. Absolutely.
And then they show how Brahma is responsible for creating
Yes.
humanity, the universe, earth, etc. And then it switches into conversations between, I believe, Vishnu and Lakshmi, Brahma and Saraswati, Shiva and Parvati.
Yes.
And through these conversations, they explain the purpose of human life and the purpose of love and the purpose of rebirth.
You're taking
karma.
back to like 25 years ago, man. Yeah.
That's the origin point of my understanding of Vishnu. Would you like to add anything else to this origin point?
So, I think this symbolism, I also don't exactly remember how the show began, but this symbolism that, okay, you see a reclining Vishnu, from him Brahma is there. So automatically you have two out of the Trinity. And in all these different ideologies, when you look at Vishnu as Parabrahma, then Brahma and Shiva become, in some sense, subsidiary to this. If you look at Shiva as Parabrahma, you will see that there will be different manifestations there. There Vishnu and Brahma will become subsidiaries to him. The basic highlight the focus is to highlight who is the Devata that is being spoken about. How do you relate them to Parabrahma? So in this case, Vishnu is essentially the universe that has life, that has the source of life, not life, but the source of life, takes a form. That form, it appears to have color, but it's colorless. What I mean by this is, it's like the ocean. The ocean is not actually blue. The ocean is colorless, anyone will tell you that. But it is appearing blue because of its depth. That is Vishnu. He's appearing blue because of the depth of his character, the depth of his being.
Wow.
That is Shyama Krishna, and that is the same thing with Kali. The depth of their being. So that's all of that idea packed into the color. I mean, that's how the rishis saw him. And that's what they passed on to us. So it really makes you think, my goodness, it's such a seemingly simple image of a deity that's reclining. But there's so much that comes from that. The universe comes from that, so to speak. So
ಪ್ರತಿದಿನವೂ ಬೇಕು ಒಂದು ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಹೇಗೆ ಹೀಗೆ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್ 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 ಕಾಫಿ ಸನ್ರೈಸ್ ನೊಂದಿಗೆ ಪ್ರತಿದಿನ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್ ಆಗಿ ಪ್ರಾರಂಭಿಸಿ.
Archie, come. Today I will teach you how to finish analyzing a full year's data and turn it into a dashboard in Excel, that too just in one day.
One full day? I can do it in 15 minutes. Otherwise, the boss would have never paid me 25 LPA.
That's thrice my CTC. And how is that possible? I have done.
So much that comes from that. The universe comes from that, so to speak. So
Why is Vishnu called the sustainer? You know, they go creator, destroyer, sustainer.
yeah, so this is a Trinity conversation that comes in that helps us understand what are the different functions that divinity takes up. Essentially, Sanatana Dharma is saying that it is one divine aspect, or one divinity, which is splitting itself into three parts and then operating from there. If you look at the purpose of creation, not just the purpose, what does creation require? Creation fundamentally requires knowledge. For Brahma to create the entire universe, he needs to know how to do it. The idea of how he has to do it, that knowledge becomes his Shakti. Knowledge here becomes a goddess, which is Saraswati.
Wow.
So Brahma and Saraswati are a pair. Once this creation happens, what is created has to be sustained. Sustenance requires resource. It requires every kind of resource. That resource is Lakshmi. And therefore Vishnu and Lakshmi are a pair. The next is dissolution. Dissolution requires raw energy to be able to pack up all of that. That raw energy is Shakti and the third is Shiva. So the three pairs are communicating three aspects of what is happening within this. The role of sustenance is also connected, that Vishnu holds, is also connected to the Dashavatars. Because creation, of course it's an ongoing process, but creation typically happens at the beginning, right? Sustenance is what human life is also about. That the longest time we're focusing on sustenance. Of course, one can say growth is also a part of that. That's a given. But the longest time, both in terms of our bodies and our souls, we're trying to sustain ourselves here. That sustenance happens in different ways. That sustenance is nourished by different forces. So Vishnu takes different avatars to sustain different parts of our being. So I know it may sound complicated, but it's actually very, very simple. It's just about the idea that to grow a plant, you need sunlight, you need water, you need good soil, you need to ensure that the air around is not too polluted. You need a host of different factors. All of those are the avatars of Vishnu for that sustenance of the plant. If you replace yourself with a plant in that case, you will see that, all of these avatars are helping me sustain. All of these are aspects of Vishnu that are taking care of me. So,
Have you ever wondered while growing up why these great divine beings, while they're responsible for creating the entire universe, are interested in this one stupid little planet called Earth, which is in the middle of a sea of stars and, a vast field of outer space?
So it's so interesting, no? All your questions somehow for me are now centered around Vishnu, because if you look even in the Trinity, the one who has the closest affinity to Earth is Vishnu. Vishnu marries the Earth. That is why Vishnu has one Shakti. Like we said, all resource is called as his Shakti, which is Lakshmi. Lakshmi splits herself into two forms. One is tangible resource. Tangible resource is everything that you can feel and see and touch and experience. That is essentially the Earth all around us. So the Earth in Sanskritam is Bhu. So Bhudevi becomes his wife. The other is intangible wealth. Wealth that we can feel but we cannot necessarily touch or access. That is Sri Devi. So these are both his wives. Vishnu's interest in the earth is purely out of love. It's, like you said, it's a vast universe. Why this planet in particular? The same Vishnu Puran carried a story about how when the weight of adharmam becomes too much on the earth, she takes the form of a cow and she goes and appeals to him, saying, come and relieve me of the burden of all of what's going wrong. And he says, I'll come and renew my pact, because I promised to hold you and hold you with care, so I will come. And that's where the avatars begin. This is also mentioned in the Bhagavatam, but it's a very beautiful way to look at how it brings Vishnu closer. Because in some senses, we're talking about consciousness, we're talking about this fundamental life force that is beyond the reach of the universe. But this force is keeping this earth on its axis. That is Vishnu. He is constantly holding it.
Nobody cares about you in the corporate world. Not your manager, not your team, not even HR. You could be the hardest working person on the floor, but if you do not know how to position yourself strategically, you'll get ignored. And that's the trap most professionals fall into. They think good work is enough. But the truth is, it's not just about doing the work, it's about being seen doing it. You need to know how to speak up in meetings without sounding unsure. Present your ideas clearly and confidently. Carry yourself with leadership energy even when you are not in a leadership role yet. And for that, you need to build a personality that naturally commands respect even without trying too hard. Hi, I'm Sanjeev Datta, India's #1 personality mentor with over.
But this force is keeping this earth on its axis. That is Vishnu. He is constantly holding it.
I have a tripped out thought / question.
Okay.
Through the countless episodes we've done on Kal Bhairav and Shiva, I have realized that there are equivalents of the Kal Bhairav deity that we know in Hinduism in certain African cultures. Like in Egyptian culture, there's Anubis,
Yes, absolutely.
which is exactly what Kal Bhairav stands for, and it's represented by a black dog, which is the same as Kal Bhairav in our culture. And we had an Africanist on the show who spoke about a female with a snake coiled around her neck with dreadlocks, a statue of a Devi, but which looked a lot like Shiva, found in West Africa, so I think it was Nigeria if I'm not mistaken. So the consensus thought that I gained from these thoughts is that seems like multiple cultures would pray to the same kind of energy, or at least a similar kind of energy. It makes me think that while on Earth we pray to Vishnu as the sustainer of the universe, could there be a planet far, far away where Vishnu is also worshipped?
That's an interesting thought.
We'll never know, right?
We'll never know. But that takes my mind to a story. And this is a very popular story about Yashoda and how Krishna is eating mud. So basically he's a little boy and he's just taken a handful of mud and put it in his mouth. And immediately his friends go and report to her. Now let's say a kshetram like Ayodhya. Ayodhya is largely known by the name Ayodhya itself, right? There isn't a regional variant that we refer to it. Across the country, everyone identifies it as Ayodhya. But you come to the south, there will be a Sanskritam name, a Sanskrit name that is given to this place. But more often than not, you will see it is not necessarily called that. So, for example, there are 5 temples across Tamil Nadu and Andhra where Shiva embodies the 5 elements, the elements of the Panchamahabhutas, that is earth, water, fire, air, and space. So Shiva represents that element. One of the temples is known as Tiruvannaikoil. Tiruvannaikoil is not going to be easy for someone who is not familiar to say it. It's a Tamil word. The Sanskritam word is Jambukeshwara. So what happens with this kind of regional layering is it doesn't become accessible. It's not easy for someone to connect and necessarily say, okay, I understand. Also the legends, the complexity, the intersection of different things. There's the intersection of history meets Puranas. Not to say that they're different things, but there is different chronologies meeting. There is also different practices meeting. On one hand, you will see a very ritualistic coded practice that is coming from a Brahmin community that is saying this is how the space has to be maintained. But you will also see a lot of indigenous influences in the same space. So it can get a little complex in terms of saying it's what's happening here. But the South is a mystery that is waiting to be explored. I think the easier ways for people who are watching the show and not necessarily that familiar with it would be not to get overwhelmed by the experience. I've seen a lot of people do this, including South Indians. They'll do one 4-day Tamil Nadu trip. They'll visit Rameshwaram, Madurai, Dhanushkodi, some 40 places. At the end of them, I've asked people, so how is Rameshwaram? They'll just, which one is Rameshwaram? 3rd temple? No, 6th temple. The experience is erased. So although there is this temptation to say, okay, if you go to Chidambaram also, around Chidambaram, you have like more than 40 different places you can visit, all of which have their own history. I would go against a popular belief and say don't visit all 40 together. Visit Chidambaram, come back. let Chidambaram sit in your heart. Next time you want to go somewhere else, add one thing to Chidambaram. Don't make the mistake of putting too much on your plate.
Where are you from ethnically?
Ethnically, I'm from Andhra Pradesh.
Okay.
Born and brought up in Bangalore, but I'm more familiar with the southern parts of the country, even in terms of kshetras.
Bro, generally, I know it's wrong to generalize, but say the youth from the southern part of our country, do they feel like that about the north?
In terms of?
Like what I said that you'll see a lot of North Indians not having travelled across the south. But is the reverse also true?
So in the north, the presence of Kashi, the presence of Naimisharanyam, which is in Uttar Pradesh, the presence of Badri, of Kedarnath, Amarnath, all of this automatically has made the Vindhyas, everything beyond north of the Vindhyas, has made these very desirable places for sadhakas from the south. So, like you said, I don't know if it is right to generalize and say that there is this intimidation about the north. The intimidation largely disappears because although the places are in the north, a lot of stories concerning these places are regularly told in the south. So, stories about, say, Naimisharanyam, although it's in UP, you go to Naimisharanyam, you'll feel like it's a mini Andhra Pradesh only, because there are scores of devotees and pilgrims that are regularly visiting there. So they've set up circuits and 3-day tours, 5-day tours, etc. So it's a lot more accessible, not in terms of logistics, but in terms of familiarity. Saying, yeah, Naimisharanyam, every time we hear this story, we know that it is being told in Naimisharanyam. So familiarity comes in.
Very whack thought is that I have Tamil bros, deep Hanuman Bhakts, and I have Jat bros who are deep Hanuman Bhakts also.
Yeah.
Such different personalities.
Totally.
Praying the same deity.
Exactly.
That's the beauty of Sanatana.
That is the beauty of Sanatana Dharma. That you can be anywhere on any spectrum and you can connect to some deity in such an individualistic way that it makes you think how expansive is this thought process. It has space for everyone.
ये ट्रेडिंग स्ट्रैटेजीज सारी ट्रेडिंग स्ट्रैटेजीज का बाप है. ये सारे सेगमेंट्स, सारे टाइम फ्रेम्स और सारे टाइप की मार्केट कंडीशंस में इजीली एग्जीक्यूट होती है. और बेस्ट पार्ट इस स्ट्रैटेजी की ये
individualistic way that it makes you think how expansive is this thought process. It has space for everyone.
There's something about the geographical region of the subcontinent, man.
Yeah.
I do believe that there's deities in multiple faiths.
Yeah.
I'm talking about outside of Hinduism as well. And there have been powerful deities in powerful religions which are not to be found in the modern day version of Earth that we know.
Yeah.
For example, Egyptian culture, Mesopotamian, South American culture. But for some reason, the subcontinental deities as well as the subcontinental culture survived.
Yeah.
There's some role for the subcontinent to play for sure.
Absolutely.
On the world stage. But anyway, back to the story.
So coming back to the world of Vishnu, also just to kind of tie that loose end about wanting to experience divinity anywhere. So the beauty about Vishnu is that Vaishnavism is everywhere in this country. So it's not to say that Ganapati is not important outside Maharashtra. Of course he is. But his heartbeat is felt in Maharashtra. But Vishnu, you want to connect to him as Narasimha, like I said, go to Ahobilam. You want to connect to him as Rama, Ayodhya is waiting for you. You want to connect to him as Krishna, Vrindavan is there. So in various parts, he ties the whole subcontinent together. Same about Shakti as well, no? Shakti in the south, Upasana, worshipping of Shakti in the south is very different from Shakti in the north, but present everywhere. So you can easily tie these forces up by one common idea of, okay, I just want to understand Vishnu. The whole country will become your canvas to explore then. So, and using that to go back to the story. So in the sequence of avatars, Narasimha is the fourth. After this comes, again, now you see, up till now we saw how he came for very specific purposes. It becomes very clear by now that Vishnu comes as the Devata that rules intellect and says, this is also what happens in sadhana, that as your sadhana increases, a sense of confidence also comes that I can do. Because sadhana by default will bring powers into your realm of control. Because these powers are byproducts. They are called siddhis. You will acquire siddhis by virtue of being in sadhana, because what happens in sadhana is essentially you are rubbing the dust off the mirror. So the sun is going to shine the second that layer of dust is gone. But because the sun is shining and you're able to see everything around, don't think it's the power of the mirror, it's the power of the sun. And that's when Vishnu comes in again in this story to say, hey, there is this sadhaka who's known in the three worlds for being such a generous soul. And he believes, I can give anyone anything. He's a good person, he means well. But Vishnu recognizes this as borderline arrogance and says, this is detrimental to your sadhana, so I'll come and I'll teach you a lesson. Not in a harsh way where I'll send you away, but I'll check your pride.
What was the sadhaka's name?
The sadhaka's name is Bali, or Mahabali as he's called. Bali Chakravarti. He's a king. And this king takes it upon himself to organize this massive yajna. And he says, anybody who comes in this yajna, whatever they ask, I will give. So Vishnu takes birth as the son of Aditi and Kashyapa. Kashyapa is a rishi, Aditi is his wife, and Aditi is also they are also the parents of all the devatas, of Indra and the other devatas. Vishnu is born to them as Vamana, so he's born as a dwarf. And he grows in size very soon, and he appears as in Sanskrit we call him a Vatu, a small Brahmana, aged between 5 to 8 years, who has just begun his process of learning Vedas. So this little boy, or rather Vishnu disguised as this little boy, he appears in Bali's yajna. And the story is so beautiful because Bali looks at him and he's stunned. Bali notices him from a distance and he says, who is that boy? How is he glowing with this kind of radiance? And he's immediately attracted to him. So he goes to him and he says, ask me for anything. So the boy says, they have a conversation. And the boy says, I just want 3 pieces of land. So he says, that's it. I mean, I'm the emperor of the 3 worlds. I can give you much more than that. Please ask. This is that. Pucho na. He says, you give me 3 pieces, I'm content. Says, okay, I'll give you. And he pours water, and this is the Puranic equivalent of signing a deed. He pours water into Vamana's hand to seal the deal. The second he does that, this boy starts to grow in size. So as he grows in size, with 1 foot, he covers the earth. With the next foot, he covers everything beyond. He was promised 3 foot, not 3 feet, not 3 square feet, but 3 footsteps. So he looks at Bali and he says, where's the third? You're a man of your word, right? Where is the 3rd foot now? And Bali says, I know where the 3rd foot, where you can place your 3rd foot. And he bends his head down and says, place it on my head. Which is essentially a way of communicating that my arrogance has been quelled with this. This immediately will lead a cryptic to ask, with his 1st foot, he's covered the earth. Bali is inside the earth only. No, how can Bali's head be a separate space? This space is different from this space. That's all the story is trying to tell you. The external world is different. The internal world, he conquered that. And that's how Vamana, the dwarf, became the one who controlled the 3 worlds, Trivikrama. Again, a beautiful connection between Vaishnavism and Shaktam. In Vaishnavam, he's called Trivikrama. Vikrama is one who controls, who rules. He rules the 3 worlds, Trivikrama. In Shaktam, she is the most beautiful one across the 3 worlds, so she's called Tripura Sundari. 3 comes as a commonality here. Again, showcasing parallels. Everywhere parallels come out. We just have to find them in the story. So this is Vamana.
The Chiranjeevi. Where do we even begin this topic?
The midpoint of the avatarams, no? 5 are over. Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Narasimha, Vamana. Now, this also teaches us beyond this linear demarcation of avatars, where we say, okay, these are 10. Within these avatars and beyond, there are other ways to categorize them. One way to categorize is these 10. But even within this, you have different categories. For example, there are 3 avatars that are known as Purna avatars. They are considered to be complete manifestations of Vishnu. So the essence of Vishnu's entire energy, Vishnu's entire Shakti is present in those 3. One is Narasimha, which we just spoke about. The other 2 are Rama and Krishna.
9 rupees. 9 rupees cannot even buy you a packet of chips, but it can absolutely save your career. You'll ask me how. That is by learning AI tools like ChatGPT and other AI advancements. Hi.
Narasimha, which we just spoke about. The other 2 are Rama and Krishna. Then there is another category that is called as Avesha Avatar. Avesha means to take control of. This avataram, Parshurama represents. So what happens here is, Parshurama is a rishi. He is a rishi into whom 2 digits, for the lack of a better word, 2 portions, let's say portions, two portions of Vishnu's energy take control. And those instill into him a divine purpose that appears to be very violent, which is that he takes it upon himself to rid the earth of the burden of 21,000 kings.
Why 2 digits?
These two kalas is how much this Muni is meant to receive from Vishnu. Meaning that these two will perform the job. What he's supposed to do, he's supposed to achieve the death of 21,000 adharmic kings, adharmic rajas. 2 digits of Vishnu is enough for that. Now, interestingly, so Parshurama does that, right? He takes an oath. Essentially, there is his own life story, or the Avatara story tells us that he finds that his father has been beheaded because of these kings and their sense of arrogance. So to check that, he says, I'll rid the earth, which is Vishnu renewing his pact to Bhudevi, saying, anytime somebody takes you for granted, I will come and I will ensure that balance is restored. Now, when this is finished, this is a very beautiful avataram because this avataram overlaps into the next one. Right after Parshurama comes Rama. Parshurama and Rama meet. When do they meet? They meet in Ramayanam at the time when Rama and Sita they've gotten married in Mithila. Shiva Dhanush is broken. He breaks Shiva's bow, Rama. I know I'm jumping to the next avataram, but that's to show how the connect happens here. And as soon as Shiva's bow is broken, Sita comes, marries him, and that prophecy is honored, or rather Janaka's condition is fulfilled, that only somebody who breaks the bow or somebody who lifts the bow can marry his daughter, and he breaks it. They get married. When they're leaving Mithila, Parshurama appears. And he says, who is it who had the audacity to break my Ishtadevata's bow? My Ishtadevata is Shiva. So in that point, he gets into a combat with Rama.
Really?
Yeah. And Parshurama recognizes that this is none other than Vishnu. Parshurama himself, who is an avataram, recognizes that this is the complete manifestation of the Lord in front of me. He gifts him Vishnu's bow. This ties up that story. The two portions of Vishnu's divinity that entered Parshurama, Parshurama submits them back to Rama. So it enters him as an Avesham, and he becomes an Avesha avataram. He hands it over, and after that he continues as Parshurama Muni. So that is why he remains as a Chiranjeevi. One is because Vishnu's divinity entered him and exited him, but the Chiranjeevitvam, or the immortality, is also blessing that is bestowed upon him. So Parshurama is a very, very interesting avataram that again talks about the idea of intense protection. It's fierce protection. Protection isn't always gentle and kind. Sometimes it needs to be fierce. But when it takes over, it can wreak havoc in the negative spaces of the mind. So Parshurama Upasana is meant to instill fear into the negative aspects that reside within us, such that they're altogether annihilated. Parshurama creates way for that positivity. So very, very strong avataram. Because it's Avesham, no? It's like Vishnu took control of that Muni. It's like this Muni becomes possessed. So that is a little bit about Parshurama. But again, you touch Parshurama and what other subjects will open up. On one hand, Parshurama leads us into his mother. The worship of his mother is a beautiful cult which is seen in the southern parts of the country, which is called, his mother is Renuka Devi. So there is a very, very interesting story about her. Renuka Devi is known for the power of her chastity. Parshurama's father, Jamadagni, one day he notices that Renuka Devi's mind and there is some desire that is born within her. So as a Leela, we see the story in which he asks all his other sons, saying, will you all do as I tell you to without asking any questions? So they say, what do you want us to? Kill your mother, behead her, because she has lost her chastity. By virtue of thought, they all say no. He looks at Parshurama. Parshurama's father, Jamadagni, looks at Parshurama and he says, will you kill her? Will you behead her? He says, okay, I'll do it. So he beheads his mother. Jamadagni is so moved that his son didn't ask any questions. He did as he was told, that he asks him saying, ask me for a boon, I'll give you anything you want. He says, bring my mother back to life. So he says, okay, so be it. Put your mother's head back on her body. So Parshurama, in his excitement to put his mother's head back on her body, he doesn't notice that he's picked up the head of someone else, of another lady, and he puts this head onto his mother's body, which results in the fusion of two different people coming into one body, which is why this goddess was previously called as Renuka, who now had the head of another woman whose name was Yellamma, has now merged into one goddess called Renuka Yellamma. Extremely popular cult in the southern parts of the country, What is particularly interesting about this cult is this goddess is the patron deity of the transgender community. Because the story links itself in such a way that the sons, or rather Parshurama's brothers, who said no when their father said that, will you do what I ask you to? They said no, he curses them to lose their masculinity. So when his wife comes back in this form, they all go and seek shelter with her, with Renuka Yelama, and she says, I will constantly watch out for you. You are all my children. Which is why if you see, Renuka Yelama has a temple in Karnataka called Saudatti. In Saudatti, the transgender community that worships there, it's so beautiful. This is inclusivity in so many ways, and it's not a token homage to the idea. Because here, people who, or parents who feel that their children are about to express themselves in a different way, they take them to Saudatti, communities close by, and then they declare there that the goddess has chosen this person. So the people that declare themselves or recognize themselves to be transgenders are said to be chosen by the goddess herself.
Wow.
All of this through one Parshurama. One Parshurama you open, you'll understand this. Renuka, on one hand, that is the patron deity for communities that are otherwise marginalized, also connects to the Dashamahavidya. The Chinnamasta Vidya is identical to Renuka's Swarupam. It's mind-blowing. Because when you look at Renuka, there is bloodshed, there is the head that is decapitated and all of this that happens. Chinnamasta is the goddess, one of the Vidyas, whose head is removed and blood is pouring and she's drinking, consuming her own blood. So one connects to another.
सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम ही यही है कि हमें लगता है कि अगर हमें इंग्लिश में फ्लुएंट बनना है ना तो हमें ये सब्जेक्ट प्लस ऑब्जेक्ट, ये ग्रामर रूल्स, ये ता है, ती है, क्यों है, चुका है, जब तक
Parshurama also connects to Dattatreya because Dattatreya is Parshurama's guru. So he learns all about Shakti from Dattatreya Swami. So he continues to do Upasana. Parshurama even now roams in the western ghats of the country. He's like Dattatreya, he roams around freely and he can be accessed. Karna is somebody who tapped into the power of Parshurama in the Mahabharata. There are a host of disciples of Parshurama, but he remains as a Chiranjeevi, blessing those who are sincere seekers.
I think he's also meant to become Kalki Avatar's guru, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there is one version that says this, that he will, because he knows Astra Vidya, Shastra Vidya, the knowledge of various kinds of weapons and the mantras associated with them. Eventually, when Kalki comes, because Kalki is the only avataram in this that is yet to come, at that time, Parshurama will become a guru to him, is what I've also read one or two versions speaking about that. But Parshurama is considered to be a Jnana Swarupam because of the knowledge that he carries within himself, because his guru is Dattatreya. And the mother goddess is his mother, Renuka.
So what was his adversary's name?
Kartavirya Arjuna.
Kartavirya.
Yes. Kartavirya Arjuna is known as somebody with 1,000 hands. Sahasrabahu, he is called as. And they both get into huge combat.
Sahasra Arjun.
Sahasra.
When I was a kid, there was an evolved person who told me that when Sahasra Arjun or Kartavirya Arjun was killed, he was also given a boon to be remembered as a deity. But you only call out his name when you've lost something of great importance.
Yes.
And if you find that thing, then you light a diya in his name.
There is a Kartavirya Arjuna shloka. I have seen this. I have seen how people have lost phones, lost money, lost things, my immediate near and dear ones. And my mother chants this whenever something major has gone missing. And I've seen what it's done. Because he has 1,000 hands. So the shlokam also says this. It says, Kartavirya Arjuno nama Rajabahum Sahasravan Tasya Smarana Matrena. By thinking of you, Tasya Smarana Matrena Gatam Nashtam cha labhyate. I will find Gatam Nashtam, what has been lost, will be found again. So Kartavirya Arjuna is supposed to help you in moments when you cannot find anything. So it's a miraculous shloka. It does the job every single time. So again, these stories go beyond binaries, no? Kartavirya Arjuna has a persona that is visibly negative in many stories, because he's also full of pride and he's gloating with that pride. But he also is benevolent. So these shades come out beautifully. Through avatars of Vishnu, what we learn is that as people, we are not black and white. We exist in the grey. The idea is the second you tap into divinity, you can go beyond the binaries. The binaries will still exist, but they'll not bother you anymore. But these stories teach you to appreciate the binaries. They teach you to appreciate the binaries and everything in between them. So that is Kartavira Arjuna. All of these characters see centered around one Parshurama. Renuka Yalama, Chinnamasta, Jamadagni, Kartavira Arjuna. So phenomenal avataram in himself.
Can we talk a little bit about Dattatreya?
Absolutely. Dattatreya, his guru, and Dattatreya, the guru who breathes and walks in the Sahyadri Parvatas till date. A form, again, of Vishnu, an avataram of Vishnu, Dattatreya is. He's, of course, Trimurti Swarupam, Brahma, Vishnu and Maheshwara, the three heads of Dattatreya, born as the son of Atri and Anasuya. Dattatreya is one of those Swarupams who, if you look at Narasimha, he came to protect Prahlada. Look at Matsya, he came when the world was flooding. Look at Kurma, he came when Mandara Parvatam was sinking. All of these, you can see the imminent danger, or you can see the imminent need for this. But Dattatreya appears when the need is not physical. Dattatreya appears to those who say, I want to really understand the path to the self. So Dattatreya is a guru to countless people till date. Again, Dattatreya Upasana is concentrated in Maharashtra and Gujarat. You will see a host of Datta Kshetras here, and the Paramparas, beginning with Dattatreya Swami, the host of gurus that came after him as well, Sripada Vallabha and many of them, they're
Sripada Vallabha Digambara.
absolutely, all of them in the Datta Sampradaya. Right? It's the Guru Swarupam of Vishnu is Dattatreya.
तो एक हाई पेइंग सैलरी के लिए बहुत बड़े प्रमोशन के लिए आपको आना चाहिए एडवांस एक्सेल के साथ
The Guru Swarupam of Vishnu is Dattatreya. So this brings me to classify, when we look at any Devata in Sanatana Dharma, there are three classifications that every Devata will have. One is Ugramurtis. These are intense forms. These are the forms that you will reach out to, that you can reach out to when you are in an imminent danger. So let's take, since we are speaking about Vishnu, let's look at Vishnu's Ugra Swarupams will be Narasimha, will be Parshurama. All of these are Swarupams that you need immediately to come and protect you. The second category, after Ugra, is the second category that we call as Saumya Swarupams. These are gentle Swarupams, visibly gentle, where you can see Vishnu with his Parivara, where you can see that he is also in family mode. So these are for your materialistic longings. Again, Sanatana Dharma is not saying no, reject all of it. No, ask for it. If you want your family to be well, you're praying for your folks' health, there's nothing wrong in it. You're praying for your folks to be wealthy, nothing wrong in it. So for this, you reach out to him when he's with his Parivaram, Sri Devi, Bhudevi, Garuda, Vishwaksena, Adishesha, all of them will be around him. This is the Saumya Murti, when he's reclining, all of these. The third is Jnana Murtis. Jnana Murtis are when you are seeking to go within the self. Vishnu's Jnana Avataram is Hayagriva, horse-headed, and horse-headed, again, human body. Haya is horse, Hayavadana. This is Vishnu as the primordial guru is called as Hayagriva. Another Guru Swarupam of Vishnu is Dattatreya. These are Swarupams where you want to know about the self, Dattatreya will open that path. Dattatreya reveals to Parshurama what connects the three bodies. The physical body, the Sthula Sharira, the Sukshma Sharira, the subtle body, and the Karana Sharira, the causal body. What connects these three? What spark of life that connects them, which is called as Tripura. And he reveals to him an entire text that is called Tripura Rahasyam, which is a phenomenal Shakta text. Again, Vishnu is the guru to reveal something about Shakti.
Tripura's?
Rahasya.
Rahasya.
Yes, Tripura Rahasyam deals with understanding the self from a Shakta perspective.
Where does one find these texts in the modern day written in English?
Oh, there are beautiful translations available. Yes, absolutely. Because these kind of texts, especially, it has got the fascination of Easterners and Westerners alike. Because it goes so much into the self that it prods you to think. So, good solid work has been done on these subjects. Again, the source of this is Guru. Vishnu's Guru Swarupam, which is Dattatreya, in this case, Parshurama's Guru. Dattatreya's presence features in, of course, by himself, there is an entire Datta Charitra, which people also do regular reading and recitation of his Charitram. In addition to this, you will also see Dattatreya making flashes of appearances in other avatarams. It's so beautiful. In Rama Avataram, when Vishnu manifests as Rama, situation has come where he is exiled from his kingdom, from Ayodhya. So he leaves to the forest. When he's coming to the forest, he meets, or rather, as he's walking with Sita and Lakshmana, when they're walking in the forest, Atri and Anasuya, the parents of Dattatreya, they are at the door. Atri is at the door of his hermitage and he sees Rama coming. And he tells his wife, he tells Anasuya, it is as if our Datta has come. This is Ramayana hinting to you that if you pray to Rama as a guru, Rama will become Dattatreya for you. Because they're identical. When he talks to Rama, he says, I feel like my son has come home. Because Dattatreya is his son. Rama's Tattvam, Dattatreya Tattvam, identical. Dattatreya, Tattva is essence. What do they stand for?
Energy.
Energy. 24,000 shlokas in the Ramayana. Dattatreya has 24 gurus that he says, these are the gurus that I constantly learn from. He says, I learn from these 24 gurus in nature, including a python, a tree, a pigeon, you name it in nature. He says, this is what I have learned. It's a phenomenal treatise when you pick up those 24. But the 24 there serves as a link to show how Rama can become Dattatreya to you if you look at Rama as a guru. So it's how Dattatreya is fundamentally mystic, because gurus do not have a need to reveal themselves to the world. Only a true seeker will find them. Even in the case of Dattatreya, there are beautiful stories of how people have ran behind him and followed him saying, reveal your true self to me. And he has come in a disguise and says, oh, no, I'm just this person. If your seeking is sincere enough, then only if you pass that test of sincerity, he will appear. But again, Dattatreya is one of those avatarams of Vishnu where if you're feeling mentally uneasy, if you're feeling uncomfortable, you think of Dattatreya, you will get immediate relief. So there is one version that says Sita thought of Dattatreya in the Ramayana again when Ravana made her uncomfortable by he created by his Maya, he created two heads, one of Rama and one of Lakshmana, and threw it towards her. And she saw that sight. So that sight was so disturbing. Valmiki Ramayana tells us that she looks up at Surya and she finds solace with Surya. One more Devata, when you're feeling uneasy and you just feel very repulsed after seeing something that you didn't want to see, one immediate Devata you look up at is Surya. Second is Dattatreya. For Manas Shanti, for your mind to be at ease, just think of Dattatreya. Because Dattatreya's Smarana is enough to make you calm. So, yes, that is Dattatreya. That is barely a scratch on the surface. That is Dattatreya's Padadhodi. Yes.
We did an epic episode with Rajesh Inan.
Yes.
About Dattatreya. Yeah. Compared it to a Bhairav called Trishir Bhairava.
Yes, Trishir Bhairava.
Which is depicted in almost exactly the same way that Dattatreya is depicted, but in a much more fierce form. Like the expression is angry here. So again, Dattatreya is one of those topics that we will break down with you in the future, because I hear everything you're saying and I agree with everything you're saying, but we also keep calling it a combination avatar. That it was both Vishnu and Shiva.
Absolutely.
And Brahma.
Yes.
So it's a very ununderstood topic by the English speaking part of the internet at least. So we'll save that one for the future.
Okay, done.
Coming back to the story.
Yes.
With the Parshuram story arc, does he begin with Kartavirya Arjun first? Is Kartavirya Arjun somewhere in the middle of his journey, or is it at the end of his 21,000 killing spree?
No, so what happens with Parshurama is that his father is beheaded. Because his father is beheaded by Kartavirya Arjuna. So his father has a cow, a wish-fulfilling cow, that gives him anything he wants. So Kartavirya Arjuna comes and demands it from Jamadagni, saying, I want it. And there is a tussle, because Jamadagni doesn't keep it for himself. This wish-fulfilling cow, this Kamadhenu, is not for his own needs. This is if somebody comes to his hermitage, he requests this cow and she gives him whatever it is that is required to serve that many people. Kartavirya Arjuna wants to own it. So he takes it upon himself and he kills Jamadagni. So Parshurama hears of this. This happens later in the Avataram. But it marks the Avataram's focus. The Avataram came for this. So before that, Parshurama's Charitram doesn't go too much into detail about what all happened with him. We know him to be an avataram or a tapas swarupam, somebody who is in tapas. But when he's away at tapas is when this happens, and then he takes it upon himself, saying, "I will rid the earth of 21,000 such kings that are making. I will spill their blood." Before this is when the entire Renuka episode also happens with his mother. So yes.
Do you know billionaires read 50 plus books in a year? And a robot can read 50 plus books in a minute or more, but humans barely read 4 books in a year.
Episode also happens with his mother. So yes. Okay.
What happens to the cow?
The cow comes back to his ashram. He releases the cow from Kartavirya Arjuna. She comes back.
Is anything said about the battle between Parshuram and Kartavirya Arjuna?
Oh yes, that how Parshurama put his pride into place. The interesting things, because we're talking about cows, I also want to mention how when you look at stories like this, no, you have this concept of katha, and you will have a pratibimba, a reflective story, identical story about a tussle between a muni and a raja, a king and a rishi, about a cow, is Vasishtha and Vishwamitra. Vasishtha also has a cow, Surabhi. Vishwamitra at this point is not even a rishi, he is a king by name Kaushika. Kaushika comes to Vasishtha, and Kaushika has this pride about himself that I'm a king. So he comes to Vasishtha's hermitage and he says, "Can you feed me? I mean, look at how many people I've brought with me. So many of my Sena are here." He says, "I can, you come, don't worry." And then Kaushika comes inside and realizes that Vasishtha has this cow, and this cow can give anything. So he fights with Vasishtha and he says, "I want this cow." And Vasishtha said, "No, she's here because here her needs are focused on dharma, or rather we ensure that we are not asking for anything for ourselves, but you as a king will ask for yourself." So they get into an argument, and that argument becomes so severe that Kaushika leaves very, very unhappy. He fights with him, but he leaves with that sense of, "I want to be greater than Vishwan. I want to be greater than Vasishtha." And he takes that penance upon himself, saying, let the world know me as a Brahmarishi, because Vasishtha is known as a Brahmarishi, the greatest title amongst rishis. So Kaushika says, "Let me also become like that." And he keeps on ascending in his spiritual merit till he finds that point where he realizes he's lost competition. So look at the contrast in the stories, right? There is one Vasishtha and Vishwamitra. Here, Kaushika, which is the king, the angry king who wants to win, he reaches that point where he realizes, "I don't want to be in competition with anyone. I want to be a friend to the universe." He moves from a state of anger and hatred into universal love. Universal love is Vishwa Mitra. He becomes a friend to the universe. Versus Jamadagni and Kartavirya Arjuna. Kartavirya Arjuna said, "If I can't have, you can't have, to hell with you." That's what it is. So, two stories starting at the same point, saying, what can your desire do to you? Your desire can either make you burn with envy to the point that you will lose all rational thinking and do something you shouldn't have, or it can lead you to a point where you realize, "I don't need this desire. I've gone past this desire." Two beautiful ways of looking at the same thing. Two journeys that can happen within us. So these reflective stories, these connections make us think, oh wow, they're trying to tell you much more than a story. They're trying to tell you about what's happening inside us all the time. So possibilities galore.
What's said about Parshuram's story arc at the end of his killing spree?
What's said about Parshurama is that he continues to learn from Dattatreya Swami. And when his father is beheaded, his mother, Renuka, tells him, take his head to a specific place, keep roaming with his head, where she gives him a series of interesting happenings. There are variations within the story, so I'll not go into the details too much, but she tells him, where you see certain extraordinary happenings, perform the Antima Samskaras there, perform the last rites over there, know that place is where you will find divine grace. So the place that he chooses, which is in the Western Ghats or the Sahyadri Parvatas, the place that he chooses is exactly where Dattatreya appears to him. So that is how the Avatara's journey, I will not say culminates, but the story culminates there, saying he continues to learn from Dattatreya then on and goes within and then moves to the Himalayas.
मैंने ऐसी छोटी छोटी अंधे लड़कियां देखी हैं जिनकी गलती इतनी होती है कि वो देख नहीं.
He used to learn from Dattatreya then on and goes within, and then moves to the Himalayas. So
What do you think is the meaning of he is still accessible?
you tap into the power of Parshurama.
Quicker than another deity.
Depends on what that other deity is. So, like I said, so the category of devatas that bless you immediately are called as Kshipra Prasada. Kshipra is immediate, Prasada is blessing. Kshipra Prasada, they have the quality of that. Kshipra Prasada Lakshana. All the deities that have animal heads and human bodies are all Kshipra Prasada. Hanuman, Ganapati, Narasimha, Varaha, all of these are predominantly like that. You reach out, they can come like this. Parshurama is considered a Kshipra Prasada as well, though he is an exception to this rule. What I mean by this is, Parshurama is a Raksha Swarupa. So, when you are in danger, Parshurama will come. Because Parshurama's, look, anytime you want to understand what can this avatara do for me as a sadhaka, how can this avatara support me? When you ask it from a non-selfish point of view, look at what the story is telling you about that avatara. You'll understand. When things are dropping for you and you're feeling like everything is going to, all my effort up till this point is gone, it's baseless, Kurma avatara will help you. He'll give you a base and say, no, don't worry. What that means in terms of your sadhana is, your Mooladhara will get strengthened if you do Kurma Upasana. So Kurma is also the force that keeps the earth on its axis. So if you go to temples, especially in the south, you'll see this. You'll see Kurma drawn out or carved out. On top of Kurma, there will be the world. Or rather, on top of Kurma, there will be Adisesha. On Adisesha's hoods is where the earth is supported. Idea is, in your own body, that this massive universe is being replicated here. This is the microcosmos. Same thing. You just look at what is happening in that story, you'll find a way to tap into it saying, oh, this is what this avatara will do for me. So Parshurama will give you the strength to power through difficult situations. When you have Shatru Badha, when you are finding yourself struggling with enemies, with people that do not have your best interests at heart, Parshurama will support you. When you get into that space of sadhana. So, and that leads us to the idea that there are certain Purna avataras that encapsulate all of these. Now, for example, I may just be a devotee of Vishnu. In a moment of crisis, my intellectual mind will not come into being saying, okay, right now this is the kind of crisis that I'm going through, so therefore this is the devata I will reach. I will just think, God, please help me. But that's why I trust that wisdom saying that wisdom will decide what form it has to take and come. I don't have to say, everything that I'm doing is collapsing, so please come as Kurma. Everything that I'm doing is collapsing, please come. He will decide what form he needs to come and take. So this is where the fluidity of the forms also begins. And that is why there is this very beautiful story. Again, I'm jumping to show how the Dashavatas find mention in such beautiful and unexpected of places. This comes to us in the Brahmanda Purana. Here, the goddess Shakti, who is manifest as Lalita. Lalita is waging a war against this Rakshasa called Bhandasura. Bhandasura is such a powerful Rakshasa that he releases 10 types of Asuras onto Devi's army. So, looking at each Asura that he sends one Asura to hide all the knowledge that they know. So these Asuras are not physical Rakshasas. These are forces that go into their mind and make them forget everything that they have learnt. Immediately she responds by picking up her hand, and from her first finger comes out Matsyavatara. Matsyavatara goes and retrieves everything that was lost in the heads of her sailor. Next, he sends a Rakshasa that causes all of them to lose confidence and feel like their work up till now is useless. So everything is sinking. She sends Kurmavatara. Each of the Rakshasas that he sends, she sends a counter avataram to, which is described in one word as Karanguli Nakhotpanna, from the tip of her nails. Kara Anguli Nakha Utpanna Narayana Dashakritihi. Narayana's 10 avatars came from here. So for Shakti Upasaka, if you just worship her hands, Narayana's 10 avatars will protect you. One thing will lead you into another.
Jai Mata Di.
Exactly. Just because she's her sister. So of course people get into like endless loops about so which came first then.
Or which one's greater.
Which one's greater?
But that's Maya at play.
That's my attitude. You hold on to what speaks to you. You don't, in the space of sadhana, you will not care about what's greater. It is, sure, it's definitely intellectually stimulating and to understand that, and that has its place. But in the realm of sadhana, that will disappear. In the realm of sadhana, when I see her hands, I will remember Dashavataras. As a sadhaka, that's all I need to know. So that then leads to the idea of any kind of negativity that is present. Divinity has the ability to counter that immediately. And that is exactly Ramavatara. Again, Rama and Krishna Avataram, we open them, they're like massive chapters in themselves.
And this episode is pretty hypnotic already.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, we can just do a namaskaram to them from afar because they are, when they come, they will demand full center stage. So,
There's also part of me that originally thought we'll finish all 10 in this episode. And as we move forward, and this is the first time meeting you in life and podcasting with you, I've realized that, it's just a universe of Vishnu episode. There's a great way to understand Vishnu beyond the Ram and Krishna
Yes.
angles that people understand. him with.
absolutely, absolutely. Those are great and they're Purna Swarupams.
This strategy can help you capture the biggest breakouts before they happen, like this, and this. And if you
Those are great and they're Purna Swarupams. Outside of them too, a world is waiting to be discovered, just through sadhana. The Dashavataras that we talk about find their parallels in the Dashamahavidyas. Each aspect can be traced. For example, without going too much into Ramavataram, Rama is considered as Rama's name is called Taraka Nama. Taraka means that which helps us cross over. Like I said, every avataram corresponds to one Mahavidya. Rama is called Taraka Nama, so he corresponds to Tara Vidya because she also takes you across. Narasimha, again, the hint of blood corresponds to Chinnamasta. So you will find beautiful connections like this that say they're just giving you that hint, and in sadhana you will find them yourselves. So this is what a lot of people say, that how does one read more about this? But in sadhana, these things will open themselves up. For example, for the longest time I could never understand why Vamana is compared in Dashamahavidya to Lalita Tripura Sundari. Lalita Tripura Sundari is the goddess that holds a sugar cane. She is considered the most beautiful form across the three worlds. Tripura Sundari. What is the connection between her and Vamana, I thought? But then I pieced it together and realized Vamana becomes Trivikrama, three. The one that is pervading across all the three states of time, three bodies, three states of awareness. Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti. Jagrat is awake, Swapna is dream, Sushupti is dreamlessness. All the three. So, one thing. Rama is, especially in other literature, we see Rama is not always compared to Tara, he is compared to Tripura Sundari. They both hold a bow. So, we make the correlations also based on their physical appearance. Krishna is considered to be Kali. And there's a very beautiful story. This is, like I said, I feel like Rama and Krishna will deserve center stage, so I'll just do a namaskaram with one story each. There's a beautiful story which we find, I think, in the Brahma Vaivarta Purana, and I stand corrected if and my sourcing is not from that. But I've read it and it touched me, so I honestly forgot the source. This is a story in which Radha's husband is informed that Radha leaves every night to spend time with her lover. So he takes it upon himself, her husband, to go and catch her red-handed. So Radha has this habit of going to the Vrindavan Rasalila Bhumi, the space where the Rasalila happens. And she goes there every night and she spends the night with Krishna, in great adoration of Krishna. So that particular night, Krishna knows that her husband is also following. So when Radha comes to him in this grove, he says, Radha, will you bring some flowers today for me? So she says, where from? He says, from the grove around here. She says, okay. And she goes to pluck all of these flowers. Radha goes, and that's exactly the moment her husband comes and hides in the bushes. She doesn't know it, but Krishna knows it. She's gone. He's watching keenly. He has not yet spotted Krishna. Krishna is in a place where he cannot see him. He's waiting. So it's like a very active serial. It's like a climatic moment. Radha comes back, and her husband thinks, now I'll catch her. I'll see who has she brought these flowers for. As soon as she comes and she's brought these flowers, she offers them to Krishna. So as she's offering them, he steps out, her husband. He steps out from the bushes to catch her. When he steps out, instead of Krishna, he sees Kali over there. And he thinks to himself, Radha is not here with any lover. Radha is worshipping our Kuladevi, who is Kali, and she's doing that for the sake of the family. I was wrong to have doubted her like this, and he goes off. Meanwhile, Radha looks up and realizes that Krishna has become Kali. The place where this has happened in Vrindavan is the temple of Krishna Kali. So this is where Krishna is dressed as Kali, communicating that they are identical tattva. They're identical energies. Look at his name. Shyama Krishna is his name. Her name is Shyamala. It's the same thing. He was born in Mathura. Because his essence is very sweet. Her essence is also equally sweet. So she resides in Madurai, which is in Tamil Nadu.
Wow.
Mathura becomes Madurai. That's all it is. It's the same thing. Krishna is born on Janmashtami. Janmashtami was followed, or the night is called as Moharatri. She is Moha Swarupa. The night, Ashtami, is always for her. It is a Devi Tithi. He chooses that night to be born because they're brother and sister. So identicality. In Kolkata, if you go, there is something called Krishna Kali. Here it is Kali Krishna. In Vrindavan, because Krishna is main, it is Kali Krishna. In eastern part of the country, because Kali is main, it is Krishna Kali. There Kali is dressed as Krishna. Identicality. So, yes, that's all I can say about Rama and Krishna without my whole heart going off to them. So, we'll pause there with these two avatars.
I think we should end the episode also.
I think so. I think we'll dwell on the fact that there are 10 as per sequencing also. And there are 2 more. And these 2 vary. There's some versions say it is Buddha, some versions say it is Balarama, and then there is Kalki. So 9 have come, 10 have not come. But the 10th one has not come.
जय गो माता जय गोपाल आप देख रहे हैं गोकुल धाम गौसेवा माती झज्जर हरियाणा में ये हम
not come. What is the reasons for sequencing them? Why did they choose 10 across different books, across different times and spaces? Why were these 10 put like this? The reason is in astrology. These 10 correspond, 9 of them correspond to one respective graha, one respective planetary force. Worshipping that form will rid you of that graha dosha. But the maths doesn't add up. No, there are navagrahas, 9 grahas, and there are 10 avatars. The logic is this: 9 avatars correspond to 9 different grahas. One avatara, you worship this one avatara, it is equivalent to all worshipping all the navagrahas, because this avatara can remove all the graha doshas. That is Krishna avatara. So that is the reason these 10 are placed like this. It is about navagraha dosha nivaranam, removal of doshas of all those grahas, and one which encompasses and oversees all of this, but also takes you beyond. So we will save that for a later day, but this is an entry into the world of Vishnu. It's definitely not an exit.
This episode is going to need a sequel. So, Vinay Varanasi, thank you. Epic episode. That's what I'll say, man. Really had a lot of fun speaking to you.
Likewise, this has been special. The world of Vishnu has pulled us both into it, so I think we're going to remain in here for a bit.
Yeah. All I can say is I am really looking forward to the next time. Thank you, brother. Had a lot of fun with creating this today. Thank you. That was the episode for today, ladies and gentlemen.
ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್ ಕಾಫಿ ಕುಡಿಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನಿಸ್ತಾ ಉಂಟು.
ಹೊಸ ನೆಸ್ಕೆಫೆ ಸನ್ರೈಸ್ ಕಾಫಿ ಅಕ್ಕರೆಯಿಂದ ಆಯ್ಕೆ ಮಾಡಲ್ಪಟ್ಟ ಕಾಫಿ ಬೀಜಗಳಿಂದ ತಯಾರಾಗುತ್ತದೆ. ಗ್ರಾನ್ಯುಲೇಟೆಡ್ ಕಾಫಿ ಪುಡಿ, 1 ಕಪ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್ ಕಾಫಿಗೆ.
ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್.
ನಮ್ಮ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್ ಬಾಂಧವ್ಯಕ್ಕೆ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್ ಕಾಫಿ
from Nestle. जगज्जालपालं गजकण्ठमालं शरच्चन्द्रबालं महादैत्यकालं नभो नीलकायं दुरावारमायं सुपद्मासहायं भजेऽहं सदाम्बोधिवासं गजपुष्पहासं जगत्सन्निवासं शतादित्यकासं गदाचक्रशस्त्र लसत्पीतवस्त्रं हसच्चारुवक्त्रं भजेऽहं रमाकण्ठहारं श्रुतिभ्रातसारं जलान्तर्विहारं धनाभारहारं चिदानन्दरूपं मनोज्ञस्वरूपं धृतानेकरूपं भजेऽहं जराजन्महीनं परानन्दमेनं समाधानलीनं सदैवानदीनं जगज्जन्महेतुं सुरानीकहेतुं त्रिलोकैकसेतुं भजेऽहं कृताम्नाय गानं खगादेशयानं विमुक्तेर्निदानं हरारातिमानं स्वभक्तानुकूलं जगद्रक्षमूलं निरस्तार्थशूलं भजेऽहं समस्तामलेशं विदेवाभकेशं जगद्विम्बलेशं हृदाकाशदेशं सदा दिव्यदेहं विमुक्ताखिलेहं सुवैकुण्ठगेहं भजेऽहं सुराली बलिष्ठं त्रिलोकी वरिष्ठं गुरूणां गरिष्ठं स्वरूपैकनिष्ठं सदा युद्धधीरं महावीरधीरं भवाम्भोधिधीरं भजेऽहं रमावामभागं धरालग्ननागं कृताधीनयागं गदारागरागं मुनीनैः सुहीतं सुरैः सम्परीतं गुणौघैरतीतं भजेऽहं
Are you a PhD scholar or a research associate? tired of publishing papers that bring no in.
सब्सक्राइब करें और बेल आइकन दबा
सोनागाछी एशिया का सबसे बड़ा रेड लाइट एरिया है। वहाँ पे 5 साल की 8 साल की इतनी
नेटफ्लिक्स पे कोई सीरीज आती है तो लोग बहुत ज्यादा एक्साइटेड हो जाते हैं कि ये वाला
the only reason why you are not able to speak in English fluently. Because कभी भी अगर आपको इंग्लिश में बात करना होता है ना तो आपको ये सिखाया
ಪ್ರತಿದಿನವೂ ಬೇಕು ಒಂದು ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್. ಹೇಗೆ? ಹೀಗೆ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್ 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 ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್. ನೆಸ್ಕೆಫೆ ಸನ್ರೈಸ್ ನೊಂದಿಗೆ ಪ್ರತಿದಿನ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್ ಆಗಿ ಪ್ರಾರಂಭಿಸಿ.
Hello, Moto.